Hey guys, Dustin here, and I want to invite you to be a hero. Visit DustinDanielsRadio.com and click on the Swing for a Cause tab at the top right.
Overlooking downtown Phoenix, from the Faith Talk Studios in the Camelback Towers, it's the Dustin Daniels Show, where God, sex, and current events are explored from a Christian perspective. Here's your host, Dustin Daniels.
I received a phone call from a dad the other day. He was in shock. His 9-year-old son was searching for pornography on the family computer. Now, keep in mind, his son didn't know what he was searching for. He was simply typing into Google a few words, a few terms that he heard at school. And he just wanted to know what they meant. And unfortunately, this has become commonplace, right? Google has become our newest sex educator. And as you can imagine, when his son typed those words into the search engine, hardcore pornography filled the screen. His son was now staring at images too graphic to describe, and his father was shocked and disgusted and terrified as what to do next. So if this were your 9-year-old little boy, what would you do? Or maybe I should ask, what did you do when this already happened to you and your family? Now, some of you may be thinking, well, he's only 9 years old. He shouldn't have to have this conversation at that age. And you know what? I couldn't agree more. But unfortunately, we have to. We must have this conversation. And if parents don't, well, then your child will learn sexuality from Dr. Google and the other kids at school, which in reality is not sexuality at all. It's abuse. So how do we start this conversation with our 9-year-old child? Well, let me invite you to jump on our website at DustinDanielsRadio.com. There are over 150 radio shows dealing with the topic of sexuality, and that's a great place to start. And today, we're also going to tackle this question directly. My guest today is best-selling author and speaker Kristen Jensen. She has written a brand new book specifically for parents on how to start this conversation with young children. The book is titled Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Porn-Proofing Today's Young Kids. Kristen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dustin. I'm really glad to be here talking with you today.
Hey, we're privileged to have you with us. You know, you have an interesting story as to how this book came about. Can you share that with us?
I'd love to. One day I was sitting at my computer on Facebook, and I got a call from a new friend that I just met. We'd moved to a new area, and she asked if we could talk. And so I said, sure. And when we got on the phone together, she told me about a tragic story about her oldest son, who was 17 at the time. They had found out that he had been sexually molesting his younger brothers and sisters. Now, he didn't get the baby, he didn't get the 2-year-old, but he got the 4-year-old on up to the 14-year-old, and this was a large family, very Christian religious family, thought that they were protecting their children, they were homeschooling them, but unfortunately, pornography came in through the internet, and this boy had gotten involved with looking at pornography, and then he did what many children do, and that is imitate what he saw, and he began to, imitate what he saw in pornography with his younger brothers and sisters. And so she told me this horrific story and all the fallout from that, how he had to be prosecuted and all these terrible things. And I woke up the next morning, and I just had this thought that was pulsating in my mind. And I just felt very prompted to find a resource that you could read to a child that would be comfortable, that would help them understand the dangers of pornography. And so I went online and I searched, and I couldn't find anything. And then I just felt compelled to start writing a book that parents could use that would make this conversation more comfortable, that would make it easy for them to define pornography and then give the kids a plan to reject it when they saw it. And so that's how it started. It was just with this friend of mine and her tragic story, and then I just felt called, really, to do this, and I gave up a job, and I gave up, anyway, I really felt like this was one of the reasons I was put on the planet, and I've been really happy to be involved in this work. A lot of people say it's such a, disturbing thing, but I honestly feel happy when I'm working on it. So I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, Kristen, I think God has a way of turning messes into ministries, and He allowed He allowed you to do that. You call this a read out loud book. What does that mean?
Yeah, a read aloud book. So you want to read it with your children. You sit down and you just read it. It's a story of a mother and a father who talk to their son, but it's for girls too, talk to their child about what pornography is, why it's dangerous, and how they can reject it with a plan.
You're reading it out loud together. It's not like parents are reading a book, digesting all this information, and then they have to have this awkward dissertation and talk. You're doing this together. I love that.
What we realized is that parents don't have a script. When we grew up, our parents gave us scripts for certain problems. Like my mother gave me a script that she learned from her mother about how to deal with bullies. Kids that tease you at school. And she told me, kill them with kindness and, don't let them get under your skin. She had a script for that problem. And she had learned that from her mother, and she passed it down to me, and I taught it to my kids. Well, parents don't have a script for pornography because it's a new problem, really, when you're talking about young kids. We wanted was to give a script to parents. Yeah,
and you do that. I love how you defined pornography for parents. Can you share that definition with us?
Sure. Well, there's a couple definitions that we have in the book, but basically it's a twofold definition. One is we keep it very simple. It's pictures or videos or cartoons of people with little or no clothes on that focus on the parts of the body that we keep covered with a swimsuit. So, a lot of times, Dustin, parents get freaked out about talking to their kids about pornography and defining it because in their mind, in the parents' mind, they have all this ugliness, right? But they're thinking that is when they tell their children a definition, a simple definition, they're going to be taking all that ugliness and putting it in that child's head. But they're not. They're not. What they're doing is just giving their children a very simple way to recognize pornography, a name for it, so that that child can then have the vocabulary to talk to their parents when they're exposed to it.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's so simple. It's especially with an 8 or 9 year old child that pornography is simply a bad picture. And you define that. That's the most simple definition, and it's so beautiful. In the simplicity, anybody can get that. We're talking about young children here, Kristen. How young are they exposed to pornography today? I gave the example of a 9-year-old boy in my example at the top of the show. Is that something normal that you're hearing, or what's your stats saying?
Well, I'm hearing much younger. So
Wow.
I'll just turn around and do what my teacher told me never not to do, is answer a question with a question. And that question is, how young are kids having access to the Internet?
That's a great point.
If they have access to the Internet in any way, shape, or form, then they need to have a warning because there's no iron gates on the Internet. And so once they're on, unless you have really great filters, and even then, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of young kids getting around them, or the filters fail. So I think that as soon as a child has any access, whether it's in your own home or where they go, where they play. I've heard of many children getting exposed to pornography, 5-year-olds getting exposed to pornography on a school bus. I have a story of a 3-year-old who was sitting right next to her mother. She had the iPad. She was watching some little show, and the mother looked down, and all of a sudden this child is looking at her horrific pornography. As soon as the child, and that's why we're coming out with a new book. We've been asked by many parents to write a very simple book for 3-year-olds, 3 to 5, which is Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. That'll be coming out this fall, and then it's just that very gentle warning, but it gives kids an initial way, again, to recognize it and then come and tell you without shame that they've seen something, that they've seen a bad picture.
That book is for even younger. Did I catch that right? 3 to 6-year-olds? Is that what you said?
Right. So
Wow.
Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior is coming out this fall, and it's for even younger kids because, like I said, as soon as they have access to the Internet, they have access to pornography. And I wish I could say that we could totally protect all little children from this, but we can't. What we can do is give them, we can't protect them from exposure, but we can protect them by giving them an internal filter, by giving them the vocabulary to talk about it, and by opening up this discussion so that they trust us as parents and they know that we aren't going to freak out and that they can trust us to have you were talking about how that 9-year-old was typing in a term he'd heard at school. And, of course, kids don't want to be the ones that don't know what the other people are talking about.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
want to be in the know, right? They don't want to look stupid. So, they come and type in these terms. So that's another reason why you have to start these conversations early and then say, hey, if you ever hear something at school that you don't understand, come and ask me, and we'll find the answer together if I don't know the answer. So really important that you are with your child, because parents that won't face this head on, they leave their children to face it alone. And so we can't do that. We have to be right there with them.
My guest today is Kristen Jensen. She is the author of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Porn-Proofing Today's Young Kids. Kristen is a mother of 3. She's a best-selling author and speaker. And to learn more about her, you can visit protectyoungminds.org. And when we return, we're going to talk strategy with your kids. We're going to be intentional and practical. And Kristen's going to explain her can-do plan for your child. You're listening to The Dustin Daniels Show.
Most people would think that a public execution is a lousy place to ask someone to marry you. But that's exactly where God chose to pop the question to you and me.
Here's Dr. Tim Kimmel with a Family Matters Minute.
Marriage proposals run the gambit. Most people try to put some forethought into creating an ambiance for broaching the question of matrimony that complements the depth of their love and the enormity of the decision, which makes the crucifixion such an odd setting for the ultimate marriage proposal. But God was indeed extending an invitation to a relationship with you and me that required a huge price to be paid first before it could be realized. It was grace that drove Christ to pay that huge price for our hand in marriage. And it's that very same grace that He wants to enjoy a center stage position in your marriage.
Helpful resources for your family, including information about Tim Kimmel's book, Grace-Filled Marriage, are available at FamilyMatters.net. That's FamilyMatters.net.
Welcome back to God, Sex, and Current Events. I'm your host, Dustin Daniels. And I could use your help. The Purity Ministry of 7 Places is having our first annual Swing for a Cause golf fundraiser. What is that, you ask? Well, it means that I will be hitting, along with the rest of my team, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of golf balls to raise money for 7 Places and this radio show. So how can you help? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm asking you to be a hero to your spouse and your kids, to your church and to your community, because I need you to sponsor me at a buck a ball. Can you do that? $1 per ball. That's a one-time donation of $100 to keep the radio show on the air. And not just keep it on the air, but prayerfully to expand it into syndication. Now, some of you may be thinking, are you even a good golfer? No, I'm a horrible golfer, and that's why I need your help. People tell me I've got a good swing, but for some odd reason, when I actually hit the ball, well, it's just pathetic. No bueno, my friend. So, some of you could sponsor me at $2 a ball. That would be awesome. So let me encourage you to jump on the website, DustinDanielsRadio.com, to be a hero today by becoming one of my sponsors so we can keep this radio show on the air. We can keep producing the content, writing the books and the workbooks, and interviewing professionals like Kristen and her work as well. And yes, by the way, we're gonna film the event so you can check out how much money was raised and really you can see how bad of golfers we really are. So thanks again for your support. My guest today is Kristen Jensen. She is the author of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Porn-Proofing Today's Young Kids. Kristen is a mother of 3. She's a best-selling author and speaker. And to learn more about her, you can visit protectyoungminds.org. So, Kristen, let's talk practical strategy here. In your book, you talk about something called a can-do plan, and it's an acronym. So what does the C stand for?
All right. Well, the can-do plan is a plan of action so that children know exactly what to do when they're exposed to shocking images of pornography. So the first thing we need to get them to realize, they need to close their eyes. The longer you look at an image, the more it's burned into your memory and the more difficult it is to forget. So close your eyes is C.
And A, what's a A?
A is always tell a trusted adult because pornography, and especially addiction, grows in secrecy. And if we can just nip that secrecy problem in the bud, then we avoid a lot of problems. So always tell a trusted adult.
So C is close my eyes. A, always tell a trusted adult. In the can, the N stands for?
Name it when I see it. So the reason you want to name it and say that's pornography is that brings the part of your brain, which we call the thinking brain, that's the prefrontal cortex, that part of your brain needs to come online. Because when you see pornography, your sexual center of your brain, or your feeling brain, how we call it in the book, is already triggered. But in order to have the power to turn away, to reject it, you need to label it. Okay, and that's really powerful. So you label it, you name it when you see it, and the CAN, close your eyes, always tell a trusted adult, name it when you see it, those are the 3 things that you teach your child to do when they are exposed, in the moment, right, of exposure in that time. But that's not enough. You can't stop there because, guess what? Pornography, we all know, makes very powerful memories. Most of us can remember the first time we saw something pornographic, and we could probably recall that image. And so they make very powerful memories. They keep popping up in a child's head. They can tempt them to go and look for more. So we need to help them deal with the memories, and that's the last 2 steps, the D and the O, of the can-do plan.
And the D stands for?
So D is distract myself. So when a memory pops up, you need to have that child have a plan like, okay, let's say that child loves horses or Legos or cars. Have them go immediately and think about those things. And if you keep practicing diverting your thoughts to something else that's exciting, what you're actually doing is building a new neural pathway in your brain away from that image. It's actually rewiring your brain away from that image. And that's how you have to deal with it. So you distract yourself. Sometimes it's really great if you can go do something physical. Play a game or get outside or do something different so you can distract yourself. And this is a skill that kids need to be coached in a little bit. You need to practice this. It won't happen the first time, but and I use this myself. If I'm exposed to something, I use the same exact skill of distraction. And then O means order my thinking brain to be the boss. So having this conversation in your mind saying, feeling brain, I know you're curious about seeing those bad pictures, but I'm going to use my thinking brain to be the boss, to keep me safe from addiction and all the other dangers of being involved in pornography. So with these 5 steps, children have a powerful way of rejecting pornography when they see it and when it bothers them after they've seen it.
And Kristen, parents can text a number and receive this plan. Is that right? Can you give us more information on that?
Yeah, we have a great poster that goes along with our book. Now, I will say that it will make more sense to your children and be more powerful if you've read the book to them, because we explain about the thinking brain and the feeling brain, and they get a lot of great information. But we're happy to give away the plan for free. Text CAN DO PLAN, all one word, CAN DO PLAN, to the number 44222. So that's CAN DO PLAN 44222.
Yeah, and the book itself, once again, it's a read out loud book. So you're encouraging parents to read this with their children, and it's only 43 pages long, and it's something that you can certainly read all at one time. You have an actual plan on how to implement using the book with your children, to read it in sections as well. So, Kristen, thank you so much for this book. It's basically brand new. It's on Amazon right now. And once again, people can go to protectyoungminds.org to order the book. And we'll be looking forward to the junior version for ages 3 and 6 when it comes out. Is that correct?
That's right. And this book is really helping families. I have so many stories of parents writing to me, telling me that they read this book to their children, and even therapists use this book with adults. So it can be adapted to very young children and even to older, because the principles, the way we describe and explain addiction, makes it very easy to understand, even for adults. So it's empowering for all ages, really, but especially for kids. We've got to get in there and warn them so that they have a chance at rejecting this and knowing why it's going to hurt their brain, and giving them a plan for how to deal with it.
Kristen Jensen is my guest. Good Pictures, Bad Pictures is the title of the book, Porn-Proofing Today's Young Kids. And once again, you can find that plan, that CAN DO plan, that acronym, CANDO. You want to close your eyes. A stands for always tell a trusted adult. N, name it when you see it. D, distract myself. And O, order my thinking brain to be the boss. And you're going to learn about the thinking brain and the feeling brain in Kristen's book. Well, if you want to learn more about this radio show, you can visit DustinDanielsRadio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PurityPastor. If you're listening via iTunes, you can rate us on iTunes as well. Well, 1 Corinthians 4:20 says, the kingdom of God isn't just a lot of talk, it's living, and living in God's power, and that power is in the very name and the shed blood of Jesus Christ. I love you. We'll see you next week.
The Dustin Daniels Radio Show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subject matter covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the host nor the station is engaged in rendering counseling advice for your personal situation. If you need further help, we encourage you to seek the services of a Christ-based counseling professional. For more information on the radio show, visit DustinDanielsRadio.com.